I spent 200 days starting off in a fresh Minecraft Let's Play. This video showcases everything that I managed to build, the whole of my starter village. If you want to see the rest of the process, go ahead and check out the main video on my channel. For now, let the building begin. And that is exactly what I did, as you can see by this quick little scenic aerial view, as I clear out some trees, make room for our starter build, and get an idea of the landscape around me. And I have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to say during this quick little time lapse, so here I am placing in a whole bunch of dirt and smoothing out landscape, and we're ending with something that's a lot more presentable. Yeah! Once I had that though, I could finally start building. And that came in the form of building a big retaining wall and doing more landscaping. I am very glad that I built this retaining wall and staircase here on this edge, because right here I now have the perfect little vantage point to start building my starter house. Which is exactly what I did. I started by building out this stony, texture varied plinth, this base which is the ground floor, and this contrasted very nicely, very heavily with the dark, deep slate tower that we're building out on the side. Now, I am very limited with the amount of resources, the types of resources I had for this, but I decided on a birch primary upper level, scattered with a little bit of that sandstone texturing. Don't know if I like that, let me know. We went for a tough roof, and I definitely did not like the way this roof turned out. And you'll see in a little bit, we're going to end up changing that for something else. Yeah, that looks a lot better. For any form of enchanting, I need a place to put them. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to build up a quick little tower here. And it takes me a little while to get the angle of it ready because I really wanted to place this tower on the edge close to the water. I wanted to be able to tie it back in to the little starter house we built, and that came in the form of that diagonal bridge tying the two units together, which in the end I was very happy with how that bridge ended up. With all of that said though, it was time to start the biggest grind of this episode. First I had to clear out all of the trees on my little island, and then I went through and I smoothed out the terrain in the landscape to the best of my abilities. I don't like it when landscape has these sharp jagged corners. I want there to be smooth gradual curves to each of the contours, and filling in all of those nasty holes throughout. Once I had the island cleared out, I could start to plot out my village, and I started by laying out the roads, which allowed me to really figure out where I wanted to place buildings and markets and different zones and sectors of the village. Around this I could add all of my fields and my tree plantations and my animal pens. With my rough plan in hand, I could start to implement it in-game. And I took a very similar approach to what I did in my sketch, and I started with the outside with the borders and with the circulation routes, the roads and the paths to subdivide my island first. Following that, I started on one end of the island and began to build. First, the animal pen for my cows so that they could expand in population. And next, a bit of a barn to the side of that, because it makes sense that you can store all of your animal products and animal feed and so on very close to the pen where those animals live. And then in an attempt to bring a bit of life to the island at this early stages, to this barn I added a series of chimneys that just have the active and dynamic smoke rising up from it. And of course, there has to be a little house for the farmer who would manage all of this. Moving on from there, I looked toward possible industry for this little village and recalled the vast amount of trees that I removed from the island. This sparked the idea for a small logger's cabin at the center of town, fit with a sawmill and a series of piles of logs and chopped down trees to boot. Wanting to break away from the monotony of small builds for a little bit, I instead opted to build the windmill next, which is by far the largest and most complicated build on the island. I start with a very heavy set base to prevent the windmill from tipping, in my mind, followed by a thin, unobtrusive stem, which I did have to widen a little bit, towards the end. On top, I gave it a heavy, strong mechanism housing element at the top of a windmill, whatever one calls that, before adding the blades to the front, stepped out a little bit so that they cleared the rest of the structure thoroughly. From there, it was time to jump right back into that monotony, as I called it, and build a series of houses. House number 1, house number 2 and 3, and finally house number 4 to populate our village. After all of the houses were in place, it was time to fill the in-between spaces. And I often find it is these in-between spaces where random things would naturally pop up, where your street vendors and your market stalls and things would take root. So it's exactly this that I first placed at the front of the village, where new visitors would land initially from the docks, and then scattered throughout the village, I had a handful more. The very last thing that this island village build needed was a prominent food source. And so I rounded this massive build off by building a large wheat field off to one side, surrounding the windmill we built earlier. That is the end of it, my friends. That brings us to the end of this island build, and basically to day 200, 196 days spent building with limited resources, limited gear, limited experience. I had an absolute blast. My roofs have even tarnished. I did spend some time just wandering around, waiting for my wheat to finish growing, and none of this is hydrated, so we can probably chalk off about 5 to 8 days of this just, needing to happen. But I love it. I love it. I spent so much time. 200 days, my friends. That's 50 hours roughly of game time, of playing Minecraft, of building. I hope you enjoyed. I'm gonna give you all some really pretty shader glamour shots now at the end of this video. And if any of you are interested in seeing how I went about gathering the resources and playing the rest of the game outside of just building, be sure to go ahead and check out the full-length video also on my channel. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, all the wonderful things, my friends, and I'll see you in the next video. I can't wait.